Let's solder up the flight controller for the Caipirinha. We'll start out with the wires on the bottom BEC board first. 4 little wires there that connects to the front of the flight controller board that I have to solder in. Well, there's the 4 wires soldered on that connect up to the flight controller board from this BEC board. And now I've got 4 wires and a capacitor to solder on these pads down through here. I've got everything tinned up and ready to put in place. I shouldn't have to add any solder here, just a little heat and touch these where they're supposed to be. That's all the wires on the BEC board, the capacitor, and the 2 wires for battery, ESC, and battery. Now these 4 have to be soldered to the flight controller, and we done with this part. Well, Houston, we have a problem. That ground right there came off. I don't know if you can see it, because there's just a little bit right there of the solder pad left. Luckily it's ground, so I'm going to bring it over here and get ground right here, and I think I'm going to be fine. I checked it with a meter. So that's what we have now. I came right here and picked up that ground for this wire here. Kind of lucked out there. Not elegant. I certainly signed it, didn't I? But it is workable. Well, there's the whole thing soldered up. Now we'll close it up and test it and see if it works. Well, there it is, hooked back up and running, connected to Mission Planner. Mission Planner says everything's good. Wouldn't call it pretty, but now these wires, I don't have any ends on them. Like I say, the ESC, I'm going to run them through the hole in the Caipirinha. Well, let me show you over there. So as you can see, I've got some long red wires and some short red wires, some long, and then here's a shorter black wire. Now then, the short wires are going to go through this hole right here and back into this equipment compartment and be cut off like right here, and a barrel connector be put on it, and a barrel connector put on the 2 wires for the ESC. That way they can be connected up in here. Just the easiest way to do this. And then these are so long because I don't know if they're going to come through the same hole, which, by the way, this hole right here is pretty full now. I'm going to have to enlarge it just a little bit just to get 2 wires through there, much less 4. I may bring the 2 wires for the battery up through, yes, this isn't laying in there flat, this hole into the battery compartment. And you see, if I do that, then I've got the ability to put the connectors on and connect the battery anywhere in here I like. I've got connectors for the battery and for the ESC, connectors for the battery right here. Yeah, I guess it's just one I need. So, yeah, just this one. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make that hole a little larger. Then, like I say, I'm going to make my final decision on whether the battery wires are going to come out this hole or go up here, sort of like you see they are here. That's why I use this silicone wire, because it'd just be really easy to snake through right there. Depends on how crazy packed up this equipment bay gets. We'll see here. That's about how the ESC is going to set in here. Just about like that. Then the wires come back to go to the motor wires. And all the extra wire for that's kind of stuck down in there. Now I could take the wires off the flight controller, take the shrink wrap off, and solder them straight to that board. Kind of hate to do that. So my second idea, like I've said here, is I'm going to put a barrel connector on this. These are going to run down like that, both of them up that side. Get them long enough to where I can put a barrel connector on these two, put the wire through there, put some shrink wrap over the wire, snap the barrel connectors together, slide the shrink wrap down, and shrink it so that there's no problem there. And that'll be easiest way to do that. Then later, if I have to replace this ESC or something, I can just snap it out of barrel connectors on this side and snap it out of barrel connectors on this side. That's just the easiest, quickest way I know how to do that. Now this will probably be hot glued down right here. Let me put the motor back in so you can see what I'm talking about. So that's what we're talking about with the motor in and stuff. That will sit right in there nicely with its wires coming right up through this side, and barrel connector in here. Barrel connector is going to be kind of hard to solder on to these wires over here down inside that little hole, but what else do you do unless you want to solder to this ESC down inside this little hole? I guess it's 6.5 dozen of the other there, isn't it? So anyway, this will probably be hot glued down where it is right here, and I'll probably put a heat sink on top of here, depending on how much clearance I have above it. There's not much, and it kind of sticks out in the wind. Now these are going to have to be folded up. These are the ones I worry about changing the length of, not the ones over here. I worry that changing the lengths of these changes the motor timing, especially if they're not all the same length. I don't know. Just something in the back of my mind says somebody said something like that. So anyway, takes two hands to close this up. I don't particularly like that with that excess just sticking up like that, but it does work, I guess. And there's just got to be some way to push that down inside there. Yeah, you see it pushes down in there well like that without even having to do anything to make it stay down there. And there it is, closed that way. So I'm not going to do much about that. It's going to be the brakes. This scoop bringing air in, especially like I say, if I put a heat sink right on top of that ESC right where it is, I think it'll do the trick. So I don't have to worry about the battery wires at this time. It's the ESC wires. Well, I guess I don't have to worry about them. I can just decide that's the way it's going to be. Put the double-sided tape on the flight controller, stick it down in there, put the wires, ESC wires through here, battery wires through there, and that be it. But then if I start soldering everything to it, I start cutting off these wires, and like the one for the RC receiver, putting it up like that, bringing it around, cutting it off like right there, and get the individual wires with a pair of tweezers and get it over and put it into the hole ready to solder to it. Once I solder that first wire even to it, out of the 6 that's in that bundle and 6 that's in this bundle, that flight controller ain't gonna come out of there too good anymore. And if it has to come out of there, desoldering the wires and stuff, when you go to solder them back, yeah, they might just suddenly be not long enough before you know it, and you gotta run a whole new wire over to the RC receiver or the GPS. So I guess this is a point where a lot of thinking and smoking over and pondering is valuable. And I've decided that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop right here. It's 10 or 11 o'clock. I'm going to just ponder this for the next few days before I make the first move. Because like I say, at this point, once everything starts getting cut and soldered, it's kind of like no return. I've got a doctor's appointment at 3 o'clock tomorrow. So yeah, I'll probably just stare at this for a few hours over the next few days. All right, guys, thanks a lot.